So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar organized during the gLOCAL Evaluation Week. This is an event that has been proposed by the Independent Development Function of the African Development Bank. And the event is titled Leveraging AI Across the Evaluation Cycle, Insight from MDB Evaluation. So it's a pleasure for us to welcome you on this event. And before we start, I want to recall some rules that we need to follow during this conversation. So everyone should have his mic off. So unmute, and if you don't have the right to speak, there is a globe icon there that will give you the opportunity to choose the language. You can choose French if you want to have the translation in French, and English if it is the English the one that you use. Well, we'll be at the Q&A session. Whenever you want to ask a question, you need to raise your hand. There is a button that's on the Zoom application, so you use that to intervene, and the moderator will give you the opportunity to intervene. There is a Q&A button that you can also use. There you can ask the question and the panelists will answer that. So that's all for the housekeeping rules. So now let's get back to the event itself. So we have 4 objectives of the event. So is to demonstrate concrete application of AI in evaluation, synthesis, and thematic evaluation, drawing from real experience from IDEV. So IDEV will be presenting its practice of using AI in the evaluation process. And we also discuss how AI can add value across evaluation processes. We'll also reflect on the methodological and ethical and institutional safeguards required to ensure the responsive use of AI in evaluation. And finally, we'll encourage cross-institutional learning as we have MDBs here and UN agencies that are doing the same. The process that we follow is organized like this. We are at the first point, welcome and introduction. After that, we'll have the introduction of the session and the panelists that we'll do in a couple of minutes. You will have the opening remark by the Evaluator General of AfDB. We will have the presentation of IDEV experience in evaluation, synthesis, and thematic evaluation, and followed by the panel discussion. We will have 15 minutes allocated to Q&A session, and in the end, the closing remark, the wrap-up. To have the conversation, we have one moderator. We have Professor Howard White, who is a senior research associate and professor of evidence-based public policy in Lanzhou University. She is a globally renowned evaluation leader, the founding executive director of 3IE from the period of 2008 to 2015. He has been a CEO of the Campbell Collaboration and also play advisory role for WHO, IFAD, and other development institutions. He also received award from Uganda and the Benin Republic. So join me to welcome Professor Howard, who will be the moderator of this session. So Professor Howard, the floor is yours. You can introduce all the other speakers in this session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we just a very brief introduction. The one's been given already. So welcome everybody to this session in gLOCAL, which is a now annual event organised by the Global Evaluation Initiative of the World Bank. And if you look during this week, there are a lot of sessions. during the week, and one of 4 themes is evaluation evidence and trust in the age of AI. But if you look at the count, I think at least half the presentations are on in gLOCAL about AI. So it's a topic of great interest, and particularly since the introduction of large language models, everyone can use AI, and so they are, and it's moving very rapidly in the field of evaluation. And so it's very interesting to have this session now where we can hear about the hands-on experience of a number of MDBs in using AI and evaluation. So I'm very grateful to AfDB for both having the session and inviting me to convene the session. So thank you to IDEV for that. So first we have some opening remarks by Karen Rotmunsterman, who is the Evaluation General for IDEV in AfDB. So Karen, over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. And then, dear moderators, presenters, and panelists, dear colleagues, partners, and participants, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all, wherever you are today. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this gLOCAL session on leveraging AI across the evaluation cycle, insights from MDB evaluations. My thanks go to our moderator, Dr. Howard White, our presenters and panelists from IDEV, from IFAD, Independent Office of Evaluation, and the Islamic Development Bank, Independent Evaluation Department, and to everyone joining from the evaluation community. We meet at a moment when AI is reshaping how we generate, analyze, and use evidence, and when the need for timely, policy-relevant answers has never been greater. This session aims to discuss practical lessons from using AI in real evaluation work and to identify the methodological, ethical, and institutional safeguards required for responsible AI adoption and use. Across the evaluation cycle, from design to data collection, analysis, synthesis, and dissemination, AI can accelerate document screening, extract and code evidence, detect patterns across large data sets, support thematic clustering, and help produce structured syntheses. For independent evaluation functions, these capabilities can increase efficiency, broaden scope, and yield insights that are hard to detect manually. Let me highlight some concrete benefits that IDEV and peers can observe in their practices. First, speed and scale. Document triage and automated screening can reduce weeks of manual review, enabling teams to include larger evidence bases. Second, pattern detection and benchmarking. Machine learning can detect trends and outliers across portfolios, prompting targeted follow-ups. Third, triangulation. Automated extraction helps map similar findings across diverse sources, making synthesis more systematic. And finally, predictive insights. When used with caution, models can flag risks or outcome signals that guide sampling and inquiry. But these opportunities also come with significant risks. AI can miss relevant elements, amplify biases in source data, produce outputs that lack traceability, hallucinate plausible sounding but incorrect information, and raise confidentiality and privacy concerns. Over-reliance on automated outputs can erode critical judgment and compromise the credibility of findings. These are real risks that demand concrete responses. AI is a tool to complement, not replace, evaluative judgment. Decisions to use AI must be grounded in evaluative thinking from the outset. Define the questions, the evidence needed, the known data limitations, and the risks of automation. Human expertise must guide model selection, validation, and interpretation. And crucially, human accountability must follow every AI-generated output. Outputs must be interrogated, triangulated, and contextualized before informing conclusions or policy recommendations. Dear participants, today's session is an opportunity for candid, practical exchange. I encourage panelists to share both successes and setbacks, and you all to ask probing questions. Our aim is to build collective knowledge on how to pilot AI responsibly, document lessons, and scale what works. AI can be a powerful ally for evaluation, improving speed, scope, and insight, but only when it is used responsibly. Let us commit to thoughtful pilots, robust governance, capacity building, and open learning, with human judgment always at the helm. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karen, for those opening remarks. So I think I will present the speakers actually as they come up. So the structure of the session is we first have a presentation by Alda Drabo from IDEV, as a data scientist at IDEV and has been responsible for the work they've been doing in developing their AI applications and evaluation. So we have a short 15-minute presentation from Alda, and then we're going to go to a panel discussion, including IDEV, IFAD, and Islamic Development Bank. So Alda, over to you, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Merci pour votre présence. C'est un réel plaisir pour moi de vous retrouver pour cet événement important consacré au gLOCAL, dont le thème est Evaluation, Evidence and Trust in Age AI. Je suis ravi de partager avec vous quelques expériences, quelques réflexions sur la manière dont IDEV explore les questions d'intelligence artificielle dans les évaluations. Avant d'entrer dans le vif du sujet, je voudrais d'emblée souligner un point important. L'IA ne remplace pas l'évaluateur. Évidemment, l'IA peut contribuer donc à renforcer l'efficacité et l'efficience. Aussi, je voudrais souligner que notre expérience à IDEV, c'est une phase exploratoire, et donc les leçons que nous retenons permettront de passer à une phase d'automatisation, ce qui permettra davantage de renforcer l'analyse et de gagner davantage le temps. Alors, au menu de cette discussion, nous aurons 6 principaux points: le cadre conceptuel, l'objectif, l'intérêt, les cas concrets, et aussi la démarche et un cas concret d'utilisation donc de l'IA, notamment de copilote, et les questions donc importantes telles que les limites, les leçons et aussi les perspectives d'IDEV en termes d'intelligence artificielle. Alors, pour démarrer cette présentation, je pense qu'il est utile de distinguer deux familles d'intelligence artificielle que nous utilisons à IDEV. Ce cadre conceptuel, il est important pour la suite. Les deux familles d'intelligence artificielle, nous avons l'intelligence artificielle prédictive ou analytique, la moins connue, mais la plus ancienne de nos jours, bien sûr. Elle est importante parce qu'elle opère sur les données structurées. Elle permet d'analyser les données quantitatives, d'identifier les tendances, d'identifier les profils, et aussi, surtout, d'estimer les effets causaux. Cette famille d'intelligence artificielle est donc utilisée à IDEV, notamment dans les analyses quantitatives et pour une évaluation d'impact qui est en cours. Il est important de noter que cette famille d'intelligence artificielle, elle est source de valeur ajoutée très importante, parce qu'elle permet donc de générer des évidences quantitatives robustes pour les évaluations. Et à côté, nous avons la seconde, c'est l'IA générative. Aujourd'hui, c'est celle qui est associée au terme IA. Elle s'opère généralement sur les données non structurées, les tests, les images, le code, les images ou les audios. L'avantage donc de cette IA générative, c'est qu'elle permet donc comme nous le savons, de générer des textes, de faire les résumés, de faire les synthèses, ce qui permet de gagner du temps. Et donc, dans IDEV, nous utilisons, c'est le fil conducteur donc, de cette présentation, nous utilisons donc cette IA générative pour l'extraction des évidences, mais aussi pour l'analyse, détecter certains termes, certains points communs, facteurs favorables, facteurs défavorables. Et donc, cette présentation pour la suite, lorsqu'on va parler d'IA, on fera référence à l'IA générative dans la suite de cette présentation, notamment le fil conducteur, c'est vraiment l'analyse et l'extraction donc des évidences, donc des findings. Alors, la question qu'on peut se poser aujourd'hui, tout le monde, c'est quel est l'intérêt d'utiliser IA générative, bien sûr, dans nos travaux d'évaluation? Quelle est la valeur ajoutée? Vraiment, dans le cycle d'évaluation, les évaluateurs font face souvent à des grands volumes de données, des dizaines de documents, de rapports, souvent plus d'une centaine. Alors, traditionnellement, cela implique de lire chaque document, identifier, repérer les citations, de repérer les passages importants, de l'extraire et de l'organiser selon les questions d'évaluation. C'est un travail très important, indispensable, mais chronophage, qui exposé aux risques d'omission ou d'oubli. Alors, c'est là qu'intervient l'IA, l'IA générative avec tous ces modèles, tous ces fondements, capable donc de parcourir, de lire des centaines de pages ou des dizaines de pages d'un document, d'identifier les éléments importants et d'extraire ces éléments importants avec les références associées. Mais évidemment, ici, il ne s'agit pas de dire on remplace l'IA générative par l'analyse manuelle. Non, c'est pas le propos. C'est comment combiner ces deux analyses. Parce que souvent, l'IA, comme tout modèle, souvent fatigue, a des hallucinations et il peut avoir des omissions d'évidence. Il peut avoir des données qui sont, des évidences qui sont mal extraites. Et donc, la validation manuelle, la revue manuelle ou la méthode, on va dire, traditionnelle, elle reste indispensable et importante. Et donc, l'idée, c'est de combiner au maximum ces deux angles, l'analyse manuelle et l'analyse donc avec l'IA générative pour consolider la base de données d'évidence pour avoir des évidences robustes, pertinentes pour l'analyse. En ce qui concerne l'IA à IDEV, nous avons utilisé l'IA dans plusieurs tasks. On a commencé par l'NLP, après l'IA générative à proprement dit. Dans plusieurs évaluations, on a utilisé un bout de IA dans plusieurs évaluations, plus ou moins approfondies, où les deux cas d'usage, recherche des documents ou extraction. Mais dans ces 5 travaux, dans ces 5 tasks, on retrouve donc l'utilisation de l'IA générative pour non seulement la recherche documentaire, mais aussi l'extraction et l'analyse des documents. Alors, la tâche principale ici, dans le cycle d'évaluation, on est amené dans l'évaluation de faire des tâches de benchmarking, d'évidence gap analysis, de documentary ou literature review. Et donc, l'IA permet donc de faciliter, donc, de gagner du temps dans ces taxes, dans ces tâches, en facilitant donc la revue, donc en facilitant donc la recherche documentaire ou aussi l'extraction ou l'analyse donc des évidences. Donc, à partir donc de ces cas pratiques, nous avons donc expérimenté, piloté donc les usages de l'IA. Je reviendrai par la suite sur les limites et aussi les leçons de ces cas d'usage. Alors, pour ces cas de ces pilotes, évidemment, il nous faut une démarche méthodologique, un cadre pour analyser, pour effectuer les tâches que je viens de numérer. Et ces tâches ici, cette démarche se résume à travers le workflow que vous pouvez, le schéma 6 joints. Comme vous pouvez le constater, la première étape, c'est les questions d'évaluation. C'est très important. Et donc, ces questions d'évaluation sont issues des section report, notre conceptuelle ou l'approche paper. Donc, ces questions d'évaluation alimentent tout l'ensemble du processus d'analyse, d'utilisation de l'IA. Et cette question d'évaluation alimente deux sources de collecte de données. La source 3, la source 2, nous avons la collecte manuelle. Traditionnellement, on fait les recherches, on collecte manuellement les rapports, les documents en relation, bien sûr, toujours avec l'évaluation, les questions d'évaluation et avec l'évaluation. Mais il se peut souvent qu'on peut passer à côté de certaines sources importantes. Et c'est là que l'IA peut, à partir donc des recherches, des prompts utilisés pour rechercher des documents pertinents, additionnels, pour compléter cette base de données initiale. Et donc, ces deux flux flux parallèles de collecte alimentent donc une base de données consolidée. Et bien évidemment, cette base de données est soumise à une validation humaine pour s'assurer que cette base de données donc, renforce et est en lien avec les questions d'évaluation. Après la collecte de données vient de deux étapes clés, analytiques clés où intervient l'IA. D'abord, la tâche, on va dire, principale, c'est l'extraction des évidences. Et là, pour l'extraction des évidences, il est nécessaire donc de rédiger un prompt. Évidemment, on va voir le cas pratique avec peut-être plusieurs pages pour demander explicitement ce qu'on veut que l'IA identifie et exporte. Après cette extraction d'évidence, il est important de passer à une validation humaine, de vérifier que les données, les évidences que nous avons extraites sont pertinentes pour les questions d'évaluation, les sous-questions et l'évaluation de façon générale. Et cette validation humaine ne se résume pas seulement de vérifier, mais aussi de vérifier les omissions potentielles qui peuvent arriver dans l'extraction d'évidence. Donc là encore, cette combinaison entre l'IA et l'approche traditionnelle manuelle nécessite souvent de fouiller, de chercher dans des documents de référence pour extraire des évidences complémentaires. Et donc, après cette extraction d'évidence, nous avons l'analyse d'évidence, une base de données d'évidence avec les questions d'évaluation. Ici, il s'agit donc de demander à l'IA, à travers donc des questions bien précises, de synthétiser ou d'identifier des thèmes principaux, des thèmes récurrents, des facteurs favorables ou des facteurs défavorables à partir donc de ces évidences extraites. Et donc, l'ensemble de ces évidences et les thèmes forment donc, on va dire, alimentent une base de données d'insight composée donc évidemment d'évidences avec des sources sur la page, mais aussi des thèmes, des facteurs qui permettent donc de rédiger, permettent à l'évaluateur de rédiger l'évidence gap analysis, benchmarking ou la revue donc documentée. Donc là, c'est le workflow qui permet donc de guider plus ou moins la démarche pour l'utilisation donc de l'IA dans le cycle d'évaluation. Alors, pour l'expérimentation, il est important de noter que à la banque, nous utilisons copilote. Donc, à IDEV, c'est ce qui est recommandé par la banque. Donc, nous utilisons copilote pour nos travaux, pour l'extraction et pour l'analyse, pour les questions de protection donc, de données. Et donc, ici, pour résumer cette diaporama, cette slide résume plus ou moins la slide précédente parce que tout parle des questions d'évaluation, des sous-questions et aussi du contexte, de l'approche paper et tous les éléments qui permettent donc de bien saisir en fait la question et de construire un prompt clair, net, qui permet donc de identifier les évidences potentielles. Et donc, le prompt que vous voyez là, c'est une illustration d'un prompt sommaire, mais le prompt en général utilisé pour l'extraction peut faire plusieurs pages, 5 ou 10 pages, qui incluent beaucoup d'éléments pour que l'IA soit précis aussi possible. Et donc, après donc, la rédaction de ce prompt avec les éléments donc, de contexte, les sorties que nous voulons, l'IA est capable donc, en fonction donc des questions ou des sous-questions d'évaluation et des critères, d'identifier les parties donc du test, du document, en relation donc en lien avec les questions d'évaluation, bien évidemment avec les métadonnées, c'est-à-dire les références, la page, la section, ce qui permet donc, comme on va le voir par la suite, de procéder donc à la validation humaine donc de ces éléments extraits. Donc tous ces éléments peuvent être stockés dans un fichier Excel ou Word pour faciliter donc la qualité assurance la qualité assurante donc des évidences extraites. Et donc le résultat, et après on a la validation humaine, très importante, qui permet donc de compléter le processus IA, pour compléter le processus IA avec la vérification des évidences, la pertinence des évidences et aussi de constater certaines omissions, donc certaines omissions d'évidence en relation bien sûr avec les questions d'évidence, ce qui permet donc à l'évaluateur, à l'équipe d'évaluation de répartir donc dans les documents pour lire et compléter la base des données initiale avec donc des évidences extraites manuellement. Ici, pour finir avec cette slide, pour dire que ce processus, oui, il y a une période une étape on va dire, de prétexte à partir de 5 échantillons ou 10 échantillons, 10 documents. Cela permet donc de peaufiner, d'améliorer le prompt et au fur et à mesure trouver le prompt adéquat pour la suite. Alors, au terme donc, de cette analyse, un certain nombre de limites de considération des leçons et les perspectives d'IDEV en termes d'intelligence artificielle, les données que nous utilisons, ce sont les données disponibles en ligne, non confidentielles, donc qui sont utilisées dans Copilot. Comme on le sait, il y a certaines limitations à l'utilisation de l'IA, l'hallucination, le fait donc de produire on va dire des réponses qui ne sont pas justes, fausses, qui ne sont pas alignées avec donc, la question donc, du départ, le système fatigue. Et donc, cela nécessite souvent, pour certains cas où le système, c'est-à-dire l'outil n'est pas capable donc d'identifier, on va dire, les évidences pertinentes, que l'évaluateur, l'équipe d'évaluateurs, passe en revue manuellement certains documents pour compléter donc la base de données initiale. Évidemment, pour ce qui concerne l'utilisation de l'IA, que ce soit en évaluation ou dans d'autres types de tâches, il est important donc d'avoir un prompt clair pour avoir donc les données donc de qualité. Et donc, pour résumer, on va dire cette leçon ou cette limite, c'est garbage in, garbage out. C'est-à-dire que si vous entrez pas, si les données, les départs à la base des données, les données ne sont pas de qualité, si les prompts ne sont pas de qualité, évidemment, les résultats seront de mauvaise, les résultats seront de mauvaise qualité. Donc ça, c'est un élément très important, la qualité des données, la qualité donc du prompt. En ce qui concerne les leçons pour aller sur les perspectives d'IDEV, IDEV prévoit donc de perfectionner donc la base de données donc d'évaluation pour intégrer les fonctionnalités EIA, ce qui va permettre donc faciliter l'extraction, la synthèse des findings issus de nos évaluations. Un élément important aussi c'est l'automatisation donc du processus. C'est très important parce que les cas d'usage que nous avons, c'est le processus est manuel. Et donc l'idée, c'est de passer à un process, à une automatisation du processus. Et l'automatisation du processus va nous faire gagner beaucoup de temps, notamment dans l'analyse et l'exploitation de grands volumes de données, mais aussi pour l'assurance qualité, parce que cela va nous permettre donc d'opérationnaliser donc la mesure des indicateurs d'assurance qualité et aussi de précision. Voici donc quelques leçons que pour résumer, pour finir, pour dire que la question n'est pas donc d'utiliser, la question n'est pas simplement d'utiliser l'IA, mais de l'utiliser de manière responsable, structurée, traçable, en restant attentif, bien sûr, aux impératifs d'éthique. L'objectif est de renforcer l'efficience, l'efficacité, tout en préservant la qualité, la rigueur et la traçabilité. Donc, l'IA est un puissant outil, mais l'IA ne remplace pas donc l'évaluateur. Pour finir, la vraie question n'est pas ce que l'IA fera de nous, mais bien ce que nous choisissons d'en faire. Parce que nous la choisissons d'en faire. C'est la question, c'est cette question que je vous remercie pour votre attention. Merci.
Okay, thank you. Dada, there's one question come up in the chat, which I think will recur throughout the session. Perhaps you can respond now from IDEV's perspective, which is what does your human validation look like? So currently all users emphasize human in the loop at some process. You can't fully automate the process, can't entirely rely on AI. And what you've stressed in particular is human validation of the output. So is that 100%? Is that a sample? Is it when you're first using the AI? And how are you validating? So can you just spend a minute or two explaining your human validation? Dad, there's a question for you. Can you indicate you've heard the question? Otherwise, we'll move on to the panel and ask Andrew to answer the question. Hopefully he can.
Thank you very much. How does human validation? Yes. En ce qui concerne l'évaluation, la validation humaine, je dirais qu'il y a plusieurs voies, plusieurs manières donc de passer à une validation humaine. D'abord, les produits, les outputs générés par AI pour voir si d'abord les données, c'est-à-dire l'output, sont bien présents donc dans le document, c'est-à-dire à travers donc la page du document, on peut vérifier donc la présence donc de ces évidences dans le document. Deuxièmement, l'assurance qualité aussi implique aussi de voir si les évidences extraites sont pertinentes en lien donc avec les questions donc d'évaluation. Et une autre manière donc pour l'assurance qualité aussi implique donc une revue manuelle, comme je l'ai dit dans la présentation, une combinaison de revue manuelle, parce que souvent pour certaines questions d'évaluation, les évidences sont insuffisantes. Il y a moins d'évidences pour soutenir donc la question d'évaluation ou les sous-questions. Donc, nécessite aussi donc de fouiller dans le document, de passer à une revue manuelle des documents pour identifier donc les évidences pertinentes. Donc, voici en grosso modo, en résumé, donc.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to move to the panel now. I'm not going to call Andrew first because Andrew is also from IDEV. We've just heard from IDEV. We also have on the panel Hans-Diep Kehrer from IFAD and from Ogres Salan. So we're going to hear from Hans-Diep first before I go to Ogres. So Hans-Diep is a senior evaluation officer at IFAD, previously worked with WFP, and so many years experience in evaluation. And all the panelists we've got are people who've been working directly with AI in their organizations in recent years. And so they've got the hands-on experience of the topic at hand, and so can give us genuine practical insights about how AI is being used and what they've seen as being the strengths and weaknesses. So the general question for you, Hans-Diep, and please no more than 3 to 5 minutes, is how has IFAD, so the IOE, Evaluation Office in IFAD, been using AI so far, and what's your plans for future use of AI? Thank you, Hasdi.
Right. Thank you, Howard. So essentially, we in IOE, our current use of AI has been guided by the IOE AI strategy. In fact, we developed a strategy way back in 2024, and this is a 2-year strategy which aims to integrate AI systematically in evaluation cycle and in evaluation processes in a responsible manner. And we have the strategy emphasizes data protection, safeguards, and staff capacity development. Our most concrete example is the corporate level evaluation of IFAD's replenishment commitments that we did last year. This was a complex evaluation that involved a very large evidence based going back 7 to 8 years. And AI in this, we actually use this evaluation as a kind of an incubator to test AI, and AI helped us manage this huge scale by supporting transcription analysis, thematic evidence extraction, document classification, and the organization of material around sub-evaluation questions. Just to highlight that the purpose was not to replace evaluators, but to help the evaluation team retrieve evidence more efficiently, identify patterns, and support synthesis. Now, looking ahead, our planned use of AI is, I would say, even more systematic. So we see potential in 3 areas. One is knowledge management, and this is by making past evaluations and institutional evidence more searchable and usable. 2, analytical support. And this would include something that was already mentioned in the previous, in the presentation today, includes evidence gap analysis. We also plan to do synthesis and triangulation. And 3 is quality assurance. For example, checking whether findings are clearly linked to evidence, and importantly, whether recommendations are consistent with conclusions. Now, at the same time, we are cautious that AI does not or will not make evaluative judgments. It won't assign performance ratings, the ratings we assign to OECD DAC criteria, or nor would it frame conclusions and recommendations. We believe that these remain the responsibility of evaluators. So our future use will depend on clear safeguards, source traceability, confidentiality protection, human validation, quality control, and transparent documentation of where and how AI has been used. So to conclude, IOE is moving from experimentation towards a more structured and responsible integration of AI. The aim is not to automate evaluation, but to help evaluators engage with evidence more systematically while preserving independence, credibility, and accountability. I'll stop here.
Thank you. It's very useful. There's quite a number of questions come up from that, but let's move over now to Oguz Salan, who's a lead evaluation specialist at Islamic Development Bank, and they've also been using AI now recently in their evaluations. So, Oguz, can we hear from you, please?
Thank you very much. And first, let me acknowledge and appreciate the organizers' efforts for putting together this important knowledge exchange. It is very timely and very valuable discussion indeed. Before I begin, let me highlight that we try to ensure together with the IT and other departments that AI use is conducted within our institutional data protection framework with appropriate safeguards in place. With regards to current use, I think we are in line with other institutions in the sense that we are using AI to support our report production, especially help us in the desk review stages and also synthesis. We try to use AI in extracting and synthesizing information from relevant documents and also organizing it by themes. It is also useful for drafting first versions of some sections of the report, maybe non-critical ones, such as the background chapters and literature reviews, etc. Also, we use it for self-checking the reports against the templates and guidelines before submission for completeness, consistency, and the structure. A key shift for us is we are trying to move away from individual prompts to standardized ones. And actually, more recently, more increasingly, we are trying to move from even prompts to constructing agents to standardize the processes. This helps us to improve consistency across the products, avoid prompt-related variability, and ensure outputs are more replicable and also aligned with institutional standards. We, as other institutions, treat AI outputs as the draft support, and final accountability remains fully with the evaluators who are obliged to validate the results. We also use, similar to self-check, we are using in the quality assurance and review support. We use AI to flag missing evidence, inconsistencies throughout or unsupported claims. This is for flagging purposes, and the ultimate deciding factor will be the human. Checking alignment between the findings, ratings, and evidence. Again, these are support functions as an assistance function. And also, we use AI to support more systematic and structured review processes. This is particularly useful in ensuring the discipline and also consistency across the evaluation products and evaluation practice. Another major tool that we have developed was the knowledge extraction and synthesis tool for dissemination. This is we developed this through with IT and also with some external partners. This one sits on top of our evaluation knowledge platform, and it allows users to retrieve and synthesize insights from past evaluations, identify patterns, and ground their work in institutional knowledge. This is helping shift our evaluation function toward being more evidence and evidence connected and also learning oriented. Our strategy for the future is to mainstream the use of AI within our institution to ensure the quality of our deliverables and products, while also improving the efficiency of our processes. We are also keen to maintain the responsible use of AI under a proper governance framework. First, aim is to scale from prompts to agents operating on a curated repositories to improve consistency and reduce hallucination risks. The second, deepening integration with knowledge systems to support cross-portfolio analysis and evidence triangulation. Third, we are trying to strengthen the governance through clear accountability, transparency, and proper guidance, especially through trainings. Overall, our approach is to use AI where it adds clear value, which is improving efficiency, enhancing consistency, and better leveraging institutional knowledge while uplifting the quality of our products. As others mentioned, we are seeing this as a kind of complementary work to evaluator expertise, not a substitute. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So actually, you've answered some of the questions I was going to ask, but I'll ask the others. There's a very specific question from Laura about what actual AI models you're using, but I'm going to come back to that one. I'm going to go to a more general, basic question first of why we're using AI. It's there. I was just using it because it's there. No one else is doing it. So, and you touched on this, August, now. So it might give better results because basically, when you're trying to read large amounts of text and summarize them, AI probably does it better than people do, though it might make mistakes, but so do people. It's certainly quicker at summarizing 200 or 300 or 400 documents than people are. And because it's quicker, also it's cheaper. So, Andrew, from the IDEV experience to date, would you say that you're finding that AI is better, cheaper, and quicker, or some of those, not all of them? And is that the reason for continuing to invest in AI?
So thank you very much. So what I would like to mention first is that IDEV at the moment does not have a strategy, an AI strategy, but is developing one. But IDEV is progressively using AI in practical and controlled way to support document reviews evidence gap analysis, benchmarking exercises, evaluation synthesis, and thematic evaluations, as my colleague had mentioned earlier. IDEV does not yet have a dedicated AI application. The current approach mainly relies on Microsoft Copilot and structured prompts aligned with evaluation questions, sub-questions, analytical frameworks, and where relevant OECD DAC criteria. These ones were also mentioned by my colleague who did the presentation. In practice, IDEV has used AI to facilitate the extraction of relevant evidence from public documents, such as evaluation reports, project completion reports, project appraisal reports, strategy papers, and other institutional documents. The AI-generated outputs are not used automatically, and this is important to take note of, and had been mentioned earlier. They are reviewed by the evaluation team, which checks their relevance, accuracy, and consistency before selecting the evidence to retain. The validated evidence is then organized in an Excel matrix with key metadata, such as document title, year, page, or section, evaluation question, theme, country, project, and extraction date. This helps ensure traceability and quality assurance, which is really important when it comes to human validation. And this technique had been used by IDEV in the evaluation synthesis of policy dialogue and evaluation synthesis of technical assistance, both of which are in our IDEV website. So AI has also been used in IDEV to support evidence analysis and synthesis by helping consolidate findings, identify cross-cutting themes, summarize common patterns, and detect enabling and hindering factors. It analyzes structured data, identifying trends, classifying, scoring, segmenting, or estimating effects. Its main added value is efficiency, particularly in processing large volumes of documents more quickly and systematically. This has been used in some of our ongoing evaluations, like the evaluation of the multidimensional debt action plan and the evaluation of gender equality and women empowerment, and had also been used in the evaluation of the bank's decentralization with great success, I can say. So looking ahead, IDEV is exploring a more automated and secure workflow using an institutionally approved large language models, that is the application program interface, API, in collaboration with the bank's IT department. In addition, we plan to integrate, that is in future, we plan to integrate machine learning into GIS software so that it will be able to analyze huge amounts of georeference data within a short time and at reduced cost. In addition, integrating machine learning into GIS will allow us to generate much more information and measure outcomes from the data that would not be possible with GIS alone. This will therefore present decision makers with granular information that allows them to make better and accurate policy decisions. It is important to note that human validation and evaluator judgment, which has been mentioned here several times, are at the center of this process. We are also thinking of using machine translation in the Google platform to translate some of our evaluation reports and documents from English into French and vice versa. We can integrate machine translation with a few staff to check the accuracy of the translations. This may help IDEV process evaluation reports quickly in order to meet urgent information needs of our stakeholders. I beg to stop there for the moment.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Okay, so I'm going to go over to Hans-Diep now with follow-up questions. Hans-Diep, I think we've all been impressed that the IFAD introduced a strategy 2 years ago on AI when the others still don't have one. I think most organizations don't still have one. So what was the rationale for the strategy in terms of AI being better, cheaper, or quicker? Did it refer to those as being rationale for using AI? And also, a follow-up question we've not touched on yet, again for Hans-Diep, is when you were planning to start developing using AI, did IFAD then deliberately recruit software engineer experience in-house to be developing those products, or something you've been working with your IT department like Islamic Development Bank, or what was done in terms of person power resources to make it possible to develop the AI capacity? So this is for Hans-Diep.
Right. Thank you, Owen. Yes, we have, I think it was just to talk about the strategy. I think 2 years ago, we had already sensed that what AI, the potential that AI has. And I must say that a lot of it came from our, top management, the director who was very keen to take this forward. And we thought we will have a kind of a real strong emphasis on AI. In fact, I suppose we are the only MDB, perhaps now others are joining, that will soon have a staff position dedicated to only AI in the evaluation office. So that's the kind of emphasis we are placing, and that's the kind of bets we have. Although everything comes with safeguards, as we have already mentioned, the independence of the evaluation and the credibility of the evaluators themselves will never be compromised. So I just wanted to put that out there. So, the strategy really lays a roadmap for us for the next 2 years, and we've already followed that, including also, some of the work we've done. We now plan to use it in geospatial analysis, so we're proceeding in a very organized manner. So that's for the first part of your question. In terms of have we developed AI applications in-house or contracted, at our office, the Independent Office of Evaluation, most of the work has been driven internally based on evaluation needs identified by IOE teams. Now, we believe this is important because AI tools for evaluation need to be grounded in evaluation methods, institutional context, confidentiality requirements, and quality assurance standards. And I believe there are at least 3 reasons for that. First, accountability and risk ownership. In independent evaluations, we remain responsible for the validity of the findings, the protection of sensitive evidence, and the credibility of the final product. So we wanted to work in a controlled environment where accountability for evaluative judgment cannot be outsourced. Second, scaling up and business continuity. If AI applications are developed only as a one-off external product, there is a risk that knowledge leaves with the vendor or the consultant, right? So building internal capacity helps us ensure that tools can be adapted, maintained, and improved over time. And the third aspect is really, I would say, in-house availability of expertise. Evaluation of use cases is highly context specific. They require people who understand IOE's evaluation manual, which we rely on heavily for our evaluations, the evidence standards, the institutional language, and the type of questions that evaluators in IOE actually need to answer. So we have, as I mentioned earlier, a team of already data scientists temporarily, but also creating positions who work closely with evaluators to develop these processes and tools. And we've seen that it's hugely useful to have somebody in-house all the time, because queries keep emanating, and having in-house capacity really helps. Also for the person, the AI expert, to actually understand the needs better from the Office of Evaluation. I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you very much. So something that keeps recurring is this issue of safeguards. It's about the human validation issue. So, Oguz, I'm going to ask you this question about Islamic Development Bank. So one of the themes for the AI theme is called I've lost it now. It's called evaluation, evidence, and trust in the age of AI. So does the repeat emphasis on safeguarding and human validation mean we don't really trust the AI yet? And is that going to change over time? Do we expect trust to improve so we feel confident to put more task and more reliance on AI with less human in the loop over time? Or is that something you think we'll always need human validation? So over to Oguz for the Islamic Development Bank perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From personal experience, I'm experimenting a lot on identifying some prompts, especially for the evaluative judgment work. But I mean, this is my experience, personal experience, and I don't see that it is at the level that can be trusted yet. But it is my personal experience. But I think it should continue to be human-centered, especially for the control validation, because we need accountability for any kind of official document. And it is not really I mean, we are not ready to delegate this kind of accountability to any kind of AI tool, in my opinion. It is, again, my personal point of view. But from what we do for quality control checks and ensuring that the outputs are validated, again, in our institution, it is largely human-centered. We treat all AI outputs as drafts, and the evaluator remains fully responsible for reviewing, revising, and validating them before use. As for agents, it is more systematic. We have a process of testing it before releasing it for use with validation checks. But again, I mean, mostly human-centered. We are trying to establish some mechanisms that we can use some other tools to support this validation process and to become more systematic and actually decrease the human involvement in this to improve the efficiency again. We are moving toward more structured mechanisms, as I said. And also we are building in built-in checks in the agents. And also the most important part is, I think, we ensure that the AI output is traceable. It is mentioned several times during the first presentation. It has to be with related references, links to wherever the information is coming from, so that it is possible to validate easily with the human-centered approach. But as I said, I mean, currently, yes, human-centered a lot in our institution, but we aim to move towards more systematic ways to increase the efficiency. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. Links in very nicely to my next question, which is going to be for Andrew at AfDB in IDEV. So there was a question from Heidi some time ago, Heidi, I did note it down, on transparency. And so when we talk about use of AI, I mean, research and evaluation generally, you have two things that recur a lot. One is the human in the loop we've been discussing, but the other is transparency, about being very transparent in where you're using AI and what for. And as Ogus was just saying, to be able to actually link back to the source documents of why it's saying what it's saying, so that we can validate it by going back and checking the source. So you mentioned a wide range of uses IDEV is making of AI, like translation into French and English, for example. I was at an event 2 weeks ago at the UK Evaluation Society on AI in evaluation, and the presenter was saying, well, we all use AI when we use Grammarly, for example, in checking our spelling, or even the Microsoft Word's own automatic checks, which are now AI powered, or you do dictation in Word, it's all AI powered. Transcriptions, as you mentioned yourself, also AI powered. So are IDEV being fully transparent in every single use of AI that they're making in their evaluation products? And how do you go about that? Is there a policy or emerging policy around transparency? Well, what's the current practice and what do you expect it to look like? So this is for Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Actually, our evaluation processes are very, very transparent, and it's a requirement for our evaluations, because transparency also increases the usability of the evaluations. But I can say that so far to date, we have not yet developed a dedicated AI application. However, we are currently engaging with the bank's IT department to explore the possibility of developing a solution tailored to needs. In addition, IDEV is also considering reorganizing its evaluation research database, the EVRD, by leveraging AI to support the extraction, summarization, and synthesis of findings from evaluations. EVRD is a repository of findings, lessons, and recommendations drawn from independent and self-evaluations. This can be assessed by anybody, actually. It is something that it is a platform that can be accessed by most people. So we are indeed transparent in the use of the applications that we are using in our evaluations. But I would also want to mention that in addition, there is also a platform, EVA, developed by the Asian Development Bank since 2019, that leverages AI to transform access to evaluation knowledge, enabling advanced search, retrieval, and systematic extraction of lessons from evaluation reports. And following the Heads of Evaluation Cooperation Group, ECG, endorsement of EVA as the shared platform, the next phase will focus on scaling cross-institutional discovery and learning. This will strengthen evidence-based decision-making and position EVA as a foundational digital public good for the evaluation community. So what I would like also to add is that we are developing a strategy, and all these issues of transparency in the use of these tools will actually be explained more clearly in the strategy that we are developing. Because I mentioned earlier in the beginning that we have not yet developed an AI strategy to guide most of the things that we do, but we are in the process of developing one. We have already started. And I know in that strategy, we are going to specify all these issues regarding transparency and use of AI in a more clear manner that supports the evaluations that we conduct. I would stop there.
Thank you, Andrew. Just for our participants, there's something with Andrew's screen, makes him looking like an AI avatar himself. He's a real person. It's just some issue with the background where he's got merged into the background. He doesn't look like a real person, but he really is. Okay, so again, it's working very nicely. You've touched on what was going to be my next question, so maybe I'll ask Hans this question as one of the leaders in IFAD, being one of the early movers in this space. What I've been struck by, not in just this session, but previous sessions as well, is a lot of people doing the same thing in isolation. And so what you've mentioned now is that ECG, so that's the Evaluation Coordination Group for the MDV evaluation departments, has been doing some discussion about trying to have a common product, and ECG and then the DAC Evaluation Working Group should be opportunities for cross-learning for different agencies about their uses of AI. And to what extent has that been happening and informed the approaches you're taking? Or are you really like, okay, we're going to do this, and we might occasionally go and talk about what we're doing, but we're not really making an active effort to learn from others? Is that a fair characterization? So Hans, this is for IFAD.
Right, Howard, thanks. No, I think we have, I think AI is anything that is developing as a concept, right? It cannot be done in isolation. So we cannot claim that, or I think it'll be naive on our part if we go ahead and think that this is something that we can create by ourselves, because there's so much of learning, cross-learning that's happening, and IOE has always engaged with multiple sources, beginning the ECG group, etc., to actually engender this cross-learning. And as a case in point is that IOE has been, I may use the word busy, in actually participating in several fora, including this one, where we actually not only share what we have, but we also gain from the others. And then even starting at home, we have, the Rome-based agencies, the UN agencies, right, which are all in Rome. We have started, reaching out with them. And then by extension, because IFAD is part of the ECG, we are also engaging with ECG, which has all the IFIs, and we're also dealing with UN. So there's a constant dialogue going on. And I think I can safely say that we've learned as much as we have given. We have also learned a lot. And I think partnerships is the way to go forward. There's nothing that should be done in isolation, because it's more of a public and a global good, and it can only be enhanced by working together. I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to move on a bit to what I see as future challenges, and maybe let's go back to let's stay with IFAD on this, but I'm probably going to ask you all of this. So we had a session last week for preparing for this session today. And I raised the issue that so for those that are not familiar with MDBs, the evaluation departments produce mainly the sector and thematic evaluations. The project level evaluations done by the operational sections. And in the MDBs, they're called project completion reports, or in the World Bank, ICCRRs, but something like a completion report. And they're done by operations. One can imagine a situation in which task managers realize we can just do the completion report using AI. We can just give it the sufficient reports from the project in the appraisal document, and it can just write a project completion report. There's a standard template for completion reports, so it's exactly the sort of thing that AI can generate. And if that's not already happening, it's going to be coming to you very soon, is what I would say. And you can think of arguments against doing that. I certainly can. But what would be the response of the evaluation department to, I think, the coming wave of AI-generated completion reports? I'm going to ask each of you that question, but let's start with IFAD as we're there at the moment.
Right, Howard.
Yeah.
So I would advise, that's a good point. I would advise the task managers to use AI as an evidence mapping tool rather than as an automatic report writer. We have AI can help you summarize supervision reports, identify recurring implementation issues, for instance, track changes over time, and organize material around completion report sections. For example, talking from an IFAD's perspective or an MDB's perspective, it can quickly pull out references to procurement delays, disbursement performance, safeguards, targeting, co-financing, implementation bottlenecks, and reported results. Having said that, the final report must still be very carefully validated. Supervision reports reflect what was observed and recorded, but at different points in time. And now that may contain gaps, inconsistencies, or optimistic assessments even. And AI can reproduce those weaknesses if it's used uncritically, right? So the task manager should therefore verify all claims against the original reports, check figures and dates, distinguish facts from interpretation, and importantly, keep an audit trail of documents used, prompts applied, outputs generated, and judgments made. I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, the same question for Islamic Development Bank. Over to you.
I don't know if I have much to add. I totally agree with the response given by IFAD. It is really critical to validate afterwards and ensure that accountability is with someone. Because as pointed out earlier, we are talking about several documents, and AI may treat those documents as facts, although, as previously mentioned, it can be misleading for the overall judgment. I think it will be a good tool to identify these contradictions, these evidences, map them out. But at the end of the day, based on all the available evidence, although they are contradicting with each other, AI can flag those. And then the evaluator or the self-evaluator in this case will be able to actually make a judgment at the end. I think currently this is the best approach. It should be used precautiously with a caution, keeping in mind that not all the outputs of the AI would be reliable because not all the inputs are reliable.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So just a warning to the panelists, I'm going to ask the same question again to Andrew. Then I'm going to ask each panelist to ask one other panelist a question. And I'm going to do that round, and then we're going to go to the open Q&A, including the backlog of questions I haven't yet asked to the panel. So first, Andrew, to answer this question about what will you do about task managers producing completion reports with AI? What sort of advice or guidance would you give to them? And then I'm going to ask each panelist in turn to ask a question of another panelist. Andrew, over to you on completion reports being produced by AI.
So thank you very much. Actually, I agree with the two panelists. Actually, AI can be used to extract relevant evidence from project documents, supervision reports, completion reports, evaluation reports, and other available sources. It can also help identify patterns, common findings, enabling and hindering factors, and gaps in the evaluation evidence. For example, in an evidence gap analysis, AI can help determine which evaluation questions are well supported by documentary or evidence and which areas require additional interviews, fieldwork, or data collection. However, as indicated earlier, AI output should include clear references, which are actually metadata, such as document title, year, page number, or section, evaluation question, and theme to ensure traceability. And traceability is really, really important for validation purposes. And this reduces the risk of unsupported conclusions. For an operations task manager, considering the use of AI to produce a completion report based on supervision reports, my advice would be to use AI as an analytical assistant. As my colleague has indicated, not as an automatic report writer. AI can help summarize supervision reports, extract key implementation issues, assess progress against outputs and outcomes, identify risks and lessons learned, and structure the report. However, as my colleagues have also mentioned, all AI-generated content should be carefully validated against the original documents. Completion reports require accountability and institutional credibility. So the final analysis, ratings, lessons, and recommendations should remain under human responsibility, supported by a strong human in the loop process, which has been repeated several times here. So that is a key message, which I think is very, very important whenever you are using AI for data extraction or evidence synthesis. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. So one thing none of you mentioned, which I would stress here, is when I talk about evaluation design and planning to do key informed interviews for an evaluation, I always stress the interviews are to find out things you cannot find out from published material already available. So you know what's in the written reports. You do the interview to find out the things that are not in the reports. And if you have a AI-based analysis of supervision reports, you're not going to get that. You need the interviews. Now, at UKES, there actually was one of the posters was on a group that designed an AI avatar to conduct interviews, key informed interviews. So maybe I can also start doing that task. But currently, we do the interviews in person. And I actually like in person rather than Zoom, if at all possible, because there's still certain things that just work better in terms of body language and so on when you're in person rather than over Zoom. So that bit will be missing, this human element of the knowledge, the knowledge that people have and the perspectives people have that aren't in the written documents are still currently important to understanding. And Steve made some very good points about picking up procurement delays and targeting performance, and just as Andrew just said, just performance on the KPIs that should be documented in the supervision reports, but there's always stuff that's not there, yes, or reading between the lines. So I think we're going to continue to need some human interaction for that stage. Okay, now I'm going to go around in the same order to ask each panel member to ask one other panel member a question, and then we'll go to the audience. So, Steve, who do you want to ask a question and what? What is the question?
I don't know. I could start with the last speaker, Andrew, and really, it's question also for my own understanding, Andrew. What I believe one of the key roles of AI is also to help, especially independent evaluators, in triangulating information. Right? It's not just extracting, but actually making the findings robust, right, based on robust evidence. So what has been your organization, or what are your thoughts about how AI can also help or should help triangulation of data? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. That is really important, because triangulation of evidence is actually key in evaluations, because it leads to strong findings and strong lessons and strong recommendations. So the evidence that is generated from AI should actually be triangulated against other sources like from interviews, or maybe evidence coming from focus group discussions, evidence coming from portfolio reviews, or evidence coming from maybe other secondary data sources, So there should be agreement among these evidence sources. And we try to the extent possible to check the evidence, whether the evidence is relevant and whether it meets the evidential threshold, and whether the context in which the evidence has been derived is actually, or the context or the evaluation has been conducted. So context or the relevance of the evidence from all these sources, and also the strength of that evidence are particularly important when it comes to use of AI evidence. We look at that AI evidence that has been generated, and we compare it with other evidence sources that we have. Because as we have indicated here, AI is not supposed to be used in isolation. The evidence that is generated should actually be triangulated against other sources of evidence. And that evidence from AI must also meet the evidential threshold for us to consider it. So when we see that the evidence from AI is not really in agreement with other evidence sources, then we have to take note of that. So what I'm trying to say is that triangulation is really important. Yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to just come in on that ground for that answer, and I'll come back to ask someone a question in a second. So there's a danger there of self-validation. There's a BBC Radio 4 series called More or Less, where they look at facts and figures, and they had one recently where an MP had posted that 44% of sexual offences are carried out by asylum seekers, which is totally wrong. The number's about 1 or 2%, and the source was Grog. And when Grog was interrogated as to its source, Grog was the source for Grog's citation. So someone had got the number from Grog, and Grog was using someone citing it as being the source to validate itself. So you can find multiple, look like independent validations, but actually all coming from the same source in the end, which is incorrect. And so this is relevant to one of the questions came earlier about what do we do when there's poor data quality. And it has been mentioned, if the supervision reports have bad data and poor quality data, that's what the AI is going to summarize. And it can look convincing when it's put into a report. In the past, I've done scenarios and then just made some arbitrary assumptions to generate a policy scenario, and somehow that enters into the policy discussions. Oh, these are the numbers. And it was just meant to be like demonstrating how you do the calculations. So once something's written down, it can have some sort of authority as a fact. And I think this is a big risk, that things look official when they've got a very thin basis. So it's validation and looking for triangulation. The question as it raised, I think, is very important. And trying to make sure to know where the validated source is getting its data from. It may end up being the same source. So Andrew, who do you want to ask a question to, and what's that question, please?
So I just want to ask the question to the two panelists. So I just wanted to know how they are trying to institutionalize AI in their respective organizations, because we know AI in a number of situations, it faces some resistance, and it requires that senior management, we get the buy-in of senior management to support the use of AI in the organizations, because there are budgetary or implications involved. So how are they trying to institutionalize AI in their organizations, and how are they trying to get the buy-in of the senior management to provide the necessary support that is needed for implementation of AI initiatives?
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go Hansdeep first, because I'm going to come to you and then you're going to ask your question. So Hansdeep?
Yeah, no, that's an important point. I think, you need the management buy-in. And as I mentioned earlier, for the Independent Office of Evaluation, we had already the director who has been leading this process, right? So it was him in 2024 who came up with the strategy. So that's really helped. But I think there has been an organizational slowly developing culture. It's not just limited to the Office of Independence, but IFAD in general. So we have, a huge IT department, and there are additional funds being allocated to the IT department to ensure that the lot of the cutting edge technologies are being used in-house. So there is a general agreement. In fact, for us, and a case in point that I wanted to make, because like a typical IFN MDB, we have our executive board, and the fact that we were able to get a position, fixed term staff position in IOE for AI shows the buy-in not only of the management but also of the executive board, because they see how it is proceeding. And I think the second point I would like to make is it's also incumbent upon us as evaluators to showcase the benefits and the use of AI to our divisions, right? And this will happen as we develop more and more. For example, the corporate level evaluation that was done by us, led by me, the first one where we used AI, we were amply able to demonstrate this cost efficiency, right? The savings. So I think it's income. It goes both ways, right? Well, the management has the vision, but it is also the evaluators that drive home that point that this is so much needed. I'll stop here.
Thanks. Very good. So over to you, same question. How do you ensure adequate resources are being allocated to investing in AI for evaluation? What's needed to make that happen?
Yeah, I mean, for management, I think it is best to showcase, as mentioned, but we have to showcase that we can do more with the AI, with the current resources. I think it is, I mean, as already mentioned, there are some kind of implications that there will be less required budget for some of the evaluations, and time. Time is also very important.
Yeah.
If we showcase this increase of evaluation products per staff or resources, I think it is a clear indication that where we should go. And I think it will be a clear message to the management for them to be convinced enough. But of course, we have to be careful. I mean, we are not, going to delegate anything. We are just using AI to increase our efficiency. We are not going to replace ourselves. We are going to replace the unnecessary, time-consuming repetitive tasks, which will improve our product capacity and efficiency. I think this is the way to go. And also, I think we have to be clear about disclosing where we are using it. So my next question is going to be related to this to Hansip, since they are really well established in terms of strategy, implementation, use. What is your disclosure policy in terms of using AI? For example, you produced a report, and during the evaluation, you have used AI in several tasks. So when it comes to the disclosure section of the report, I mean, how do you disclose? What kind of work is disclosed? I mean, it starts from writing assistance, right? I mean, you can polish a paragraph with an AI simply. Are you disclosing this, or are you disclosing the synthesis work that has been done by the AI? How is your disclosure look like? How does your disclosure look like? Thank you.
Sure. Again, as I said, we have used this extensively AI for one corporate level evaluation because it was the most complex one. So I can speak, and I was the one who led that. So I can speak from my experience and not necessarily from the experience of others in the division. And I think what we have done is that we have been in that particular evaluation report, we had a whole annex on how we have used AI. I think that was key in and we tried to make it understandable, try to make it in as simple a language as possible, because that would mean that more and more people can understand it. Because you could write in a very technical language of disclosure, but that disclosure would be perhaps understood by very few people. So of course, we haven't gone into detailed aspects about each and every step what we've done, because then it just becomes a whole manual on evaluation and on AI. And I think we also have to be guided by the fact that in the end, the evaluation report is about findings, conclusions, and recommendations, not about just AI. So we have had a dedicated annex where we've explained how we have used that process. And of course, we've always mentioned clearly that everything has been based on human validation. So we have used human validation, and we've been very honest about it, not only as full disclosure, but also the fact that we have not left it to a system to actually generate everything, right? We've had checks and balances on the way. So I think that restores confidence. The amount you disclose and what you disclose also restores confidence in the minds and of the reader. So that's exactly what we've done for that particular evaluation.
Okay, thank you so much. So we do need to get over to the audience. So while I've got you there, Hans, there was a specific question, I think, from Heidi on whether ECG are planning to produce some good practice guidelines on the use of AI in evaluation. Do you know about that?
So we have an AI focal point, and so I can always we can check with them. But I think what we've done is we have we have our newsletters, etc., that we have monthly coming out from the office, and I encourage everyone to also read that, where we actually talk about what have been the successes of having used AI. So, and then soon I'm sure the office will develop a good practices manual, just as we have an evaluation manual developed in 2022, which lays out everything. We will also hopefully come out with this particular with a good practices. And this will take a bit of time, because as we are gaining more and more experience, right? I think we want to make sure we have as evaluators, we have a adequate sample size to actually go ahead and make these as a global good. But just to answer the question, we have the newsletters which talk about these in detail. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So not yet, but read the newsletters and maybe something will come. Okay, so I'd like to invite the audience. I'm not sure if you can unmute yourselves. I think you would say. No, didn't get that. We're inviting the audience to either put new questions in the chat, or I think you can indicate you want to be unmuted. I think it's an option. But any other questions from the audience, please? And if you've asked a question and I've missed it, please just flag it again.
For the audience to intervene, they can raise their hands. And when they raise their hand, the IT team can give them the opportunity to use, have the opportunity to voice their questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if that wasn't clear to you, and it's in the chat, if you stick your hand up, then you'll get unmuted. And then you can also, you're welcome to come in and share your experience. According to my schedule, we have half an hour less. So I've been hassled to hurry up. Maybe some people think it's a 90-minute session. Feel free to leave if you think it's a 90-minute session. But you want to stay on, you can stay on. You're welcome to do so. And so if you want to also contribute your own experiences, answer any other questions that have been asked, but also, of course, ask the question directly to any of the panelists or to Dalba, who made the original presentation. Please just raise your hand, not physically in the Zoom. It must be down under the more. That's under React. You click on React at the bottom of the screen. Hopefully, I think it's not working for me. No, not working for me. Must be possible somewhere to raise your hand. I'll find it. I'm not seeing the option to raise your hand, but people have been doing things, so it must be possible. Okay, questions come up. Using AI for data collection. So I did mention this team had done AI avatars to conduct interviews, key informed interviews, but let's go to the team. So let's go to Andrew. Any experience in using AI for data collection?
So thank you. Actually, it's something that we have not tried to use AI in data collection. I don't know how it would look like, but we know there are various methods of collecting data. So maybe when conducting interviews, for example, maybe you can integrate AI, but again, I think the final product will basically depend on human or human efforts to check the extent to which the AI produces an output that captures the true situation that took place. So We have not tried that yet, but I don't know whether it is something that is possible. Though for data collection, because we can collect data from other documents, which we have actually talked about here. So we can go ahead and use AI to extract data from other documents, which we have talked about. Secondary documents, we can do that. And there are cases whereby we may have huge data sets, and we want to extract information from those data sets. We can apply AI. So it will depend on the source, on the data collection method that you are planning to use AI in. Yeah, that is what I can say for now.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. So certainly it's possible that you can use AI transcription of interviews and focus groups. So you record the focus group in traditional way, or the keyboard interview in traditional way, and then you get an AI transcription software. There are plenty of them that will simply take an MP4 file or whatever and put it into a transcript, into a written transcript, which then of course you can analyze the interviews using the software you're using to do thematic analysis, using AI. And Steve, you've appeared. I think you want to say something.
Yeah, I think I agree with the speaker before, and I think AI can also be used to design data collection tools, right? So you could design it for surveys, you could design it for interview guides, focus group discussions, right? You could even use it to improve, and it doesn't have to be designed, right? It can be also, you design questions, then AI can be used to improve wording, reduce bias, suggest maybe response scales, kind of design some kind of prompts, facilitation guides, etc. So it's not just directly collecting, but also it can facilitate in terms of creating instruments that collect data. Stop here.
Yeah, again, I'd also agree with that. And actually, we have done that. Like most AI applications, our experience was the more you tell it and the better you tell it, then the better results you get, and expect to do some rounds of iteration. But we've in one project we're doing on African American firms, we used AI both to design data collection instrument and to analyze the survey data. And it was simply, particularly analysis, as we mentioned before, it's very time saving. I did want to say on the time saving, at the event at UKES a couple of weeks ago, the estimate was that you could do an evaluation in 20% of the time you used to do it in, if you're using, this is a project level evaluation, if you're using AI to conduct the evaluation. So the time savings can be quite considerable. So we're still looking for the audience. The audience is shrinking, but there's still 50 people in the participants here. So anyone that wants to ask a question, please do come in. And so you can stick your hand up somehow and try to do that, or just okay. Oh, this is a good question. I like this one. Let's go to Islamic Development Bank. We haven't heard from you from a while, Oguz. So do MDBs intend to have AI capacity development or of developing countries as part of their ECD?
We may consider, but it is not an established plan right now. But we are more focused on the internal capacity development first. So I think it will come at a later stage, but we are dedicated to ECD in external for external stakeholders. We have been doing so much, especially on the evaluation capacity. General evaluation capacity, not only particularly AI. But as we progress, as we gain more experience, I believe that we can have modules structured and to achieve this kind of ECD in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Andrew, anything to say about that, ECD on AI applications?
No, I think given that we have the ECG working group on AI and there is already a TOR that is being reviewed, I think they may consider having that in as one of the things to push forward. But for now, I cannot say much about that. I leave it to the working group to see, and also the heads of the institutions, to evaluation offices, to check whether that is something that can actually be undertaken.
Okay, thank you. And finally to IFAD, yes. And Steve, is it part of your strategy at IFAD?
Well, actually,
have ECD for AI, yeah.
Right. Actually, we've already started, right? So we have established a community of practice where we also are dealing with governments directly, sovereign governments, where we have some kind of I wouldn't call it MOU, but in the offing, something of that sort with the government of India, for instance. As you may know, the recently held AI conference, the huge success that happened, we've drawn from that. So, we are building capacities through this community of practice forums that we have put in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're starting to lose audience now, so I think we'll quit while we're ahead. I'm going to make a couple of concluding remarks, and then I'm going to ask each of you to make a concluding remark as well. So I was given my concluding remarks to make ahead of time, but actually they do fit quite well with what's been said. So one was AI is an enabler, not a replacement, and you've all been very clear this human in the loop, human validation is something that's required. And if there's a spectrum of people who are pro-AI and anti-AI in evaluation, and on LinkedIn I still see quite a lot of anti-AI sentiment come from the evaluation community because I think they know their jobs are going to go, then I'm much more towards the pro-AI end. A year or two ago, if you'd asked me, I would have said I'm old enough not to have to worry about this, but it's happening so quickly, everyone has to worry about it. And so it's here and now, and we're all having to use AI, and it can do an awful lot. And the more you use it, the more dependent on it you'll become, and in good ways, because it does save an enormous amount of time for very routine tasks, but also it can do complex tasks if handled correctly. So I agree it's an enabler, not a replacement, but there's a lot it can do. So that I think for time and cost savings can be quite substantial. And then the other is the second concluding bullet point with non-negotiable safeguards. So this is stressed a lot, basically, of the need for quality assurance. So I think the danger of hallucinations is somewhat exaggerated, but it can happen and does happen. So to my mind, putting insufficient prompts to make sure, try and stop it doing that is and a lot of read my prompts, a lot of repetition. So I keep saying, really, you really shouldn't do that. Please don't do that. Don't do that. And then really establishing the credibility of AI products. I think there's still sort of some doubt and lack of trust because we're still trying it out and seeing. And as we get more experience, we'll probably have more trust in it. But we're all in a tentative experimental stage. Somebody said explicitly, you're at the experimental stage. So I do agree the safeguards are necessary, but I think where we feel we need for safeguards, those boundaries are going to shift over time. You get more experience from the AI. The AI gets better, it's getting better all the time. There's intelligence ratings done in the analysis by this, it's called Analytics AI or something, Analytics Analysis website, and it ranks the intelligence of the different AI models, and you'll see that they're also an upward trend increasing over time. So if you're not using AI in evaluation, you came to a session expecting to hear like, oh, well, no, you can't really use it. That's not been the message. People are using it and they're finding advantage in doing so, but they have some reservations or caveats for how to do it. And so bear those in mind as well. If you came expecting to hear, oh, this is all you need now is AI, that's also not the truth. Before we go to the final comments, there are a couple more questions, but I'm going to go that just one participant raised his hand. So whoever that was, please be unmuted. Whoever's in charge of unmuting people. If that participant's still there and wants to ask a question, please go ahead. Is that possible?
Monsieur Marcel, vous avez la main levée, vous pouvez y aller. Vous pouvez désactiver votre...
Yes.
Allô?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Allô?
Nous vous entendons, vous pouvez y aller, poser la question.
Bonjour. Bonjour. Est-ce que vous m'écoutez?
Nous vous entendons très bien. Vous pouvez poser votre question. Merci.
Ok, merci beaucoup pour la parole donnée. Je suis M. Zambongoune Marcel, Camerounais, économiste de formation, expert planification, suivi, évaluation des projets. Vraiment, je tiens déjà à remercier tous les panélistes pour ce webinaire qui est d'un intérêt majeur au regard du contexte qui est le nôtre avec l'avènement de l'IAI, de l'intelligence artificielle. Ma question est la suivante. Est-ce que l'intelligence artificielle constitue une menace ou bien une opportunité pour des évaluateurs? Telle est ma préoccupation. Dans un contexte qui est le nôtre, avec la rareté des ressources financières, les emplois qui se font de plus en plus rares, est-ce que l'IA constitue une opportunité ou bien une menace pour des évaluateurs, que ce soit des évaluateurs experts ou bien des évaluateurs émergents? Merci beaucoup pour vos éléments de réponse.
Okay, thank you, Marcel. So AI, opportunity or threat. So I'm going to invite each speaker to respond to that, but also make your closing remark at the same time. So, Ogaz, over to you first, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say that it is, I mean, personally, there is a perception of it as being threat, that it can change, it can replace humans. But from my experience, what I see for evaluation work, especially where there is a lot of risks are involved in making judgments, etc. I think it is too early to say that it is going to replace or what. But it is for sure that we already saw its impact on our efficiency and also quality enhancement, as well as the efficiency increase are very visible. And I think it is an opportunity for the time being for us to be able to, improve our evaluation practice. That's all for the time being. I think it is as a kind of closing remark as well. We really need to utilize it. I think being resistant to it will not help us. It provides a lot of opportunities for us. But again, it comes to the term responsible use of AI. We really need to stress this and use the AI in the ways that evaluation practice needs it, especially for the efficiency increase and the quality increase. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Hans-Diep.
Right. No, I of course I see it. I think the whole emphasis of this session has been that it is an opportunity, right? So I definitely see it as an opportunity, and we have evidence to prove that from our own work right now. On the budget, I think we have to really, it's kind of a trade-off, so on one hand, you may, definitely be reduced time spent on repetitive tasks, right? But then it can also bring new cost, at least initially, the fixed cost, right? You need secure systems, you need data preparation, you need staff training, documentation, quality assurance, right? So the upfront costs that are part of it, but then in the long run, definitely you will definitely have efficiency gains. So I think from a budget perspective, there is definitely an opportunity here. And my closing remark is really, I think what as evaluators, and that often happens with me, is that we really have to avoid the temptation of having AI as the be and know all of everything, right? So, and this point has been emphasized. We use it, but not getting, and just for a to drive home the point, not get lazy in terms of having AI do everything for us, because there's a real risk there. So I think we need to use it for purposes that we know is best suited, but we should not exclude the huge importance of human element there. I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you so much. And finally, Andrew for IDEV.
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. So there is ample evidence to suggest that AI is associated with increased productivity. And with increased productivity, there is potential for job creation. So AI has got the potential of creating jobs, actually, and also new jobs, especially people who will maintain the IT infrastructure, So what will be required are new skills, jobs that require new skills. So it is not a threat as such, but with increased productivity, I think there will be a possibility of increased job creation as well. So that threat is actually minimized. So what I can say as my closing remarks is that responsible use of AI based on the benefits that we have seen, its ability to actually process huge volumes of data that would not otherwise be possible in its absence. I think it is important to continue using AI because we are more likely to get more evidence, because processing huge volumes of data that were not originally possible will create more evidence for policymakers. Evidence will support findings that will definitely help policymakers to make decisions which are more critical and substantiated. Because when we have more evidence, we have stronger findings that can actually inform policy decisions that will definitely affect the lives of the general population. I may stop there.
Okay, thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you then to all the panelists. Thank you to IDEV for organising this session. It's been extremely interesting, I think, and a very good exchange of ideas, and we've learned a lot about where people are. So there's a question about any forums you'd recommend being part of Keep Learning and Sharing Experience. gLOCAL is only, what day is it? Wednesday. It's another 2 days of gLOCAL, and I do think there'll be many more sessions on AI evaluation in the coming months across different platforms. I think any evaluation association, conference, AFRAIR, conference and so on are going to be having a lot of stuff around AI. So I think it'll be where not to go to hear about AI rather than where to go to hear about AI will be the question in the coming months and maybe probably years. So thank you to participants who have stayed the course, and again thank you to IDEV. And so I hope you found it useful. And so I do encourage you to go to other gLOCAL events. Thank you again, and have a good afternoon or evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Right. Maybe for the panelists, we can stay for a while. Just keep your camera on so we can take a picture for the panelists.
Okay.
Okay, thank you all, and goodbye.
Okay, done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.